All right, yeah, welcome everyone to our general meeting. Won't be a very long meeting, but we have a special guest speaker here today as well. But before we get into that, we're gonna basically start with how we usually start, with introductions. So, for all the people that are here on the call, just give a quick intro, whether it's your first time or you've been here before, so that people can get to know each other essentially.
Hi everyone, good evening. It's my second time here. I was at the last general meeting. I had just joined that time. I work in marketing and communications, and I basically joined because I want to learn more about how I can use AI to develop products, and I'm also interested in AI governance as well. So nice to meet everybody, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm going to put my LinkedIn in the chat. And I'm really curious to hear the presentation from you, Anne.
All right, thanks. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Jonathan. I work at the University of the West Indies. I help them develop a lot of the generative AI solutions up there, specifically for gender research as well. Been on a paper, and I help them develop like websites and any kind of analytics as well. I help them with that. Outside of that, I'm developing an app as well that helps with, as Tamika was saying before, with a bit of marketing, how to leverage, the nano bananas and the cling on how to create, what would you say, like studio quality products without, hiring an agency. So yeah. I'll also drop my LinkedIn as well if any of you guys would want to check me out as well. I've been here previously in another few of these general meetings. Looking forward to Anne's talk as well.
All right, thanks. No one else?
Hi, good night. I'm Maria Clark. I have not been to any of the meetings before. I just keep missing them. I'm uh I'm in healthcare and I work for the government, and I'm interested in seeing how I can apply AI in my field.
All right, thanks for being here.
All right. Good night, everyone. I'm Clayton. I currently work in networking, and I am an AI enthusiast seeking ways to automate, um, basically systems or automate processes in my work field using AI, of course, which is the reason I joined this group. Very interested in AI.
Good night, guys. I'm Dimitri. I've been in the J.A.I for a while now, one of the board members. Um, I've always been interested in AI, especially the research part of it. Is where I'm trying to push into right now. But that's it. I'm a software engineer.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Diallo Dixon. I work in telecoms. I'm on the work on the GSM network side of things. I'm new to the field of AI just in the last year or two, and right now I'm sort of an enthusiast trying to get into the field more. And I'm looking into ways and experimenting with ways in bringing data science and AI into telecoms on the network side.
All right, thanks for being here. No one else?
Hi, my name is Ian. Um, I've been in IT for quite a number of years. I'm a manager, IT manager at one of the government agencies, and my interest in AI is really how AI will affect cybersecurity as we go forward, in this technological landscape.
Very happy to have you.
Hey everyone, good evening. My name is Floyd. I'm also interested in just seeing in the development of AI in Jamaica, and what maybe possibly I can do to contribute to that.
Name is Ashley Robinson. I work in legal and policy, and I'm also the Vice Chair Policy Committee at J.A.I.A. Nice to thank you all for being here today. Thanks for having me.
Hey, hi, good night. I'm Jihan Miller. I'm in data protection, cyber awareness, and AI governance. I've recently been appointed as a Chief Privacy Officer for the J.A.I.A. So that's me. Nice to meet you, Anne, and everyone else.
Everyone, anybody else want to go? All right. Okay. All right. Yeah, thanks everyone for being here. It's always good when we can come together as a community. Of course, it's important, that we, as much as possible, get to share ideas, share opinions on how AI is going to transform and affect our lives, especially here in the Jamaica and the Caribbean. Whether you're here locally or in the diaspora, or connected to Jamaica in some way, we welcome everyone here. So, we want to begin the meeting with a few updates, and then we can move over to the talk. So just some updates. We launched a internship program, so J.A.I.A internship program, to essentially allow, university students to get some skills in AI, working on some of our projects. So we are taking signups for that, and we'll be doing more outreach to other universities. We've approached UWI so far, so we'll be looking at approaching other universities. Because one of the main things that's brought up to us is a lot of students want to get into AI, but they don't really know how. So we think having some sort of internship slash mentorship program would be good because it can essentially pair people with that have a bit more experience in the field. Also, I think it was last week, Tuesday or Wednesday, correct me if I'm wrong, Jihan, the Ethics, Privacy, Security and Governance Committee had its first meeting. So that was a good one. So maybe Jihan can tell you a little bit about if you guys are, it's the first time you're hearing about that committee. Maybe Jihan can just give a brief, I guess, description of what happened at the meeting, and yeah, I'll tell a little bit about the committee.
Yes, so you're right. It was last Wednesday. Yeah. So we had our first meeting. We basically want to get the J.A.I.A's house in order first in terms of compliance with the Data Protection Act. And we want to go about getting ourselves aligned with the ISO 42001 AI standard. So we have a number of roles that we want to kind of split the committee into, and we had persons sign up for those different roles. via a form. Matthew, I don't know if you have the link to that. Well, that's if anybody here wants to join that committee, the Privacy, Ethics, Governance, and Security Committee. So it would involve, of course, data privacy, AI governance, the cybersecurity aspects as well. So, yeah, that's basically it in a nutshell.
Yeah, put the link to the sign up sheet in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Ashley, I see your hand up.
Regarding the internship, is it paid?
Not right now.
Okay,
Right
I
now it's
think I have
unpaid.
a method to get that done, so we can
Oh,
discuss
okay.
this after.
Okay, yeah, cool. All right, cool. So I think that's all the updates. Yeah. So just ensure that you guys, if you're not currently a member of the organization, ensure that you register and get into our WhatsApp community. I'll put the links in the chat whilst the talk is going on, so you guys can sign up if you haven't already. All right, so let's not waste any more time. Let's get into the meat of the matter, why we are all gathered here today. So I'll just give an introduction, but she can always, I guess, you know, give us more details if she wants. Let me just bring up the bio. Okay, so today we have with us Anne Thornley Brown. So Anne is a Forbes featured team building expert. She's the president of Executive Oasis International. Born in Kingston, Jamaica, and raised in Montreal. She currently has a MBA from Schulich School of Business. Hopefully, I pronounced that right, in Toronto. After completing university, she returned to Jamaica, worked at University Hospital of West Indies. She studied acting at what is now the Edna Manley School of Performing Arts. A few weeks before Hurricane Melissa, Anne designed and facilitated a strategy session for the leadership team of the U.S. Embassy in Kingston. Her other Caribbean clients have included NCB and the Caribbean Development Bank. Anne has been on the ground at the advent of a number of technological waves. Although she doesn't adopt new technology without thoroughly investigating it, she was an early internet adopter. She cut her teeth as a community leader at GeoCities, one of the first virtual communities. She launched her company website ahead of her competitors, through which she generated businesses with clients from 19 countries. She was also an early adopter for LinkedIn. When AI hit, she monitored the hype of her colleagues who hopped on board immediately. She conducted a number of experiments into AI's capabilities and straddles two worlds, business and the arts. She's a writer and professional actress and is passionate about genealogy. She has traced her roots to Africa and connected with some African cousins. She published nonfiction West Indians in Toronto, Implications for Helping Professionals. She has logged extensively for the Huffington Post and technological portals including Cvent and Event Mobile. She has written three novels, and her current work in progress, The Highland Gardener's Son from Scotland to Jamaica, is inspired by her ancestor, who rose to prominence in Jamaica and became the Custos Rotolorum of St. Mary. When she was winding down her experiments and about to start using AI for marketing, her colleagues from the world of writing alerted her to ethical considerations, specifically copyright violations in the training of AI models, and investigated this thoroughly as well as the risks of AI. Her conclusion is that AI is here to stay, but there are risks that must be mitigated. Anyways, I'll let Anne tell us a bit more about her talk, but we're glad to have Anne here, especially the topic that she'll be going into, the ethics of AI is a very important topic. One of the reasons why the ethics committee was actually created, because we think that is a very important facet to AI that, to be honest, is ignored by a lot of large corporations, and we want to do things differently. We see ethics as an asset, not as a deterrent to AI progress. And we're glad to have Anne here to tell us a little bit about that. All right, Anne, over to you.
Thank you. I want to make sure you can all hear me clearly. Can you?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Okay. So as mentioned before, I straddle two worlds. I'm a businesswoman and have been for a long time. I'm also an actress and writer. And certainly from my colleagues on the business side of the balance, the message has been loud and clear. The message has been, you better hop on board now, because if you don't get on board the AI train, you're going to be so far behind, you're not going to be able to compete. That's been the hype over and over again. And I have some close colleagues I interact with almost every day in LinkedIn, and they're right into the AI. They jumped on right away, and they were really keen on it. I'm slower. I did a bunch of experiments, and I'll just recap them slowly. Initially, it was to do with images. A lot of my writing is all set in Jamaica and somewhere else, okay? Whether it's Jamaica and Canada or Jamaica and the UK. And I have written historical fiction, three. One is in progress, and there's two others. One is set in Jamaica in the 1800s, and that's about an ancestor who migrated from Lancashire, and he had a child with an enslaved biracial woman. He eventually, unfortunately, became an enslaver himself, and he took some of the money that he got from his second baby mother's father when he was executor of the will, and he used that money to free the lady and their child. So the bottom line is this. Our ancestors who were enslaved did not have time to sit around in the evening and do paintings and sketches of their families. They just didn't have that luxury. Okay, even another novel I have is women's fiction starting in the 1960s. It's inspired by my relationship with my sister. We grew up in Montreal. And I'm going to tell you that in the early to mid 1960s in Canada and the United States, you would never see a Black person in a catalog. You wouldn't see a Black person, a model in a fashion magazine, TV commercials, nothing. Okay, now we fast forward to today. And my interest in AI was initially image generation because I failed art throughout elementary school. And since I could not find public domain images of what I wanted to convey from 1811 or the 1960s, it was very exciting to me that I could actually, through AI, convey exactly what I wanted. So I participate in pitch parties for actors and for writers. And how this works is you get on X or you get on Blue Sky, you do a pitch about your work. And then if you include an image or a mood board, a collage to convey the story, you're much more likely to be noticed by literary agents. Okay, so I did include these images. It was 2 images I included on mood boards. And then a new round of these pitch parties was coming up. Quest Pit, Small Pit, there's a few others. And this time, when I'm looking at the rules, it says no AI images. And I'm thinking, hey, this is a pitch party for writers. Why are they saying no AI images? Well, I asked the question on Blue Sky. I sent a equivalent to a tweet. I also asked it in a Facebook group for writers. Okay. Remember the message from the business world? AI is here to stay. You better hop on board now or you can't compete. Well, guess what? Just for asking the question, I was eviscerated. I was lambasted. How could you possibly do something so unethical? How could you use technology that was built on the backs of stolen copyright? It was something else, like a bloodbath. My response was, hey, I haven't seen And if this is true, I haven't seen anything about this. I haven't seen it in the newspapers. The legislators aren't talking about this. It's not on the TV news. I haven't heard anything about lawsuits. And people said, well, it's there. I started to investigate. And what I found out absolutely horrified and mortified me. The major players in the AI world have stolen, are you ready for this? Billions of images to train AI models. They have stolen millions of novels, and this is copyrighted material, videos, paintings. All of this has been used to train AI models. On the acting side of things, our union, ACTRA, which is the Canadian Association of Television and Radio Professionals, we've been talking about AI because if organizations and brands start to generate all of their commercials with AI, we're up the creek. TV commercials are the biggest source of revenue for actors, bar none. Okay? So this bothered me. It concerned me. I investigated to find out about lawsuits, and there have been lawsuits. A group of writers found that their novels had been scraped from pirate sites and used to train AI models. And they launched a lawsuit, and Anthropic settled for $1.5 billion. Some of the writers felt it wasn't enough money, so they withdrew. They did not accept the settlement, and their publishers joined in with them, and it's continuing this lawsuit. Disney sued OpenAI, and the end result was that they settled and came up with a licensing agreement so that ChatGPT can legally use Disney's images, but there's a fee for it. And frankly, I think the way to go is more governance and guardrails for the industry. And I'm going to talk more about that in a second. It's better if it's self-governing. It's better if the companies, if the AI industry decides, you know what, we're going to operate on an ethical basis. We're going to compensate people for the intellectual property that we took. That would be the best course of action. If that doesn't happen, this is going to have to work its way through the courts. It's going to have to maybe have legislators put some guardrails and governance, and that is going to take time. Now, let me flip back over to the business side of things. I was asked to do some team building, and as well, the second part was a talk about AI, it's in general AI, for a Saudi Arabian company it's a pharmaceutical company that has operations throughout the Middle East. And I went into it, and I can certainly address the ethical aspects. I can certainly address how do you roll out technology? How do you do digital transformation and get your team on board so they don't sabotage you? I've done that so many times with organizations. I can address that part. But then I thought, you know what? They may benefit from technical expertise as well. And I'm going to tell you right now up front, I'm not a techie. Everybody who is on this call has far more technical experience than I do, period. Okay? So I got in touch with one of my colleagues who hopped on AI immediately. His name is Jeff J. Hunter. He has a company that provides virtual assistants, and he's using AI for that. He certifies AI consultants. He's big in this. Marketing, he uses it for marketing, he uses it for everything. So I had a conversation with him about potentially working with this client, a long conversation. And then what ended up happening was I got off and by the way, halfway through the call, he told me his bot is always with him and his bot was listening in on the conversation. That wasn't right. He should have told me from the beginning. And when I started this call, immediately I was alerted to that. So in terms of ethics, that's extremely important. Anyway, He told me that his bot was listening in. Okay, I had encountered a similar situation before. And then I went and I spent, are you ready for this? Hours crafting the presentation, the proposal rather. The next day I spent hours revising the proposal. And then I spoke with him again. And you know what he told me? He said that 4 minutes after our call ended, his bot sent him a proposal. And I looked at that proposal and I thought, oh my gosh, me is in big trouble now. Because anyway, my competitors get on this, okay? The proposal was much more beautifully formatted than what I created, like no comparison. It was more detailed. It had even pulled information from the internet about the client. So now I am between the rock and a hard place because if I don't get on board, I could lose my business just like that. If I do get on board and I start to use this for marketing, etc., which I was planning to do, can I live with that? There's a woman, she's an African-American woman, and she runs a group called Path to Publishing on Facebook. And she sent out a scathing email last week. And she basically said, how can you, as artists and writers, support this technology when you know it's been used, built rather on stolen material? And she had 20 novels stolen, and she is part of the lawsuit now. That's what she said. And I wrote her back a long letter and I said, I can't. And I'm not telling anybody else what to do. Every company has to make their own decision. I am a Christian. I can't live with myself if I deprive another artist of their livelihood so that I can make a living. It's a real struggle. So I came to a decision. And the decision I had was, you know what? I love some aspects of AI. I love the fact that it can. I'm fine at writing my own content, my own LinkedIn posts and letters, but I love the fact that it can tweak the opening, give me suggestions for questions that get more engagement, increase the open rates on my e-blast, perhaps more engagement on my LinkedIn posts. It can also do things like I use a lot of brainstorming tools with clients. Things like idea chains, and I use force field analysis to weigh options and storyboards, and you get the picture. We're doing this on flip charts. AI can generate this in seconds, just like that. I see the benefits. I've also been having fun with it. I have loved these, doing the action figures. It took me 2 months. That's how bad I am. It took me 2 months. I have some nice action figures. There is a Jamaican, her father's Jamaican, AI professional named Alice Little. I don't know if you know her, or of her, but she did an AI summit I attended in order to educate myself. And I had already created the plushie, and she made the plushies dance. And hey, that's right up my alley. I'll hop on the plane. I go to Malaysia, Borneo, and don't let the accent fool you. I grew up in Canada, but I'm a proud Jamaican. I'm over there teaching these Malaysians to dance reggae and energizers. So dancing plushies, hey, bring it on. Have you seen these videos with the Queen speaking Jamaican patois? Wow, I love it. And these transformation images where they transform people from a baby to an adult, and they take you through thousands of years of Jamaican history, and it's just so compelling. I love all of that. But I decided I'm going to pause my AI usage for the time being. I'm going to speak with people. I'm going to make some very specific suggestions about how we can help. And that's why I'm here. Now, what can we do to help? Okay, first of all, the very first ethical concern about AI is it's going to cost people a lot of jobs. And anytime there's a technological innovation, that's a given. So how can organizations ethically address this? Well, first of all, I don't know the laws in Jamaica. I'm going to tell you that right now because I haven't had to address this. But in Canada, if you lay somebody off, there's severance. Now, it's not necessarily all that much money, but severance so that people can have a decent living until they land on their feet, that is ethical if you have to lay people off, whether or not your law compels that. Also, outplacement services, counseling, career coaching, maybe retraining people. Okay, so they're not all just thrown off onto the street. I was horrified when I saw that Jeff Bezos had laid off thousands of people. And then he bought his third yacht. It's like, what is going on? It's too much. I have seen some companies in Canada, when they have layoffs, that they have job fairs and they help their people land on their feet. Those are some of the ethical safety nets that can be put in place. In terms of the copyright, yes, we want to wait on the industry to self-police. Eventually, we hope legislators will put some guardrails so that people do have to be compensated. But in the meantime, if we are putting out proposals, if we are trying to get suppliers to work with us as we roll out AI, we need to start to ask the tough questions and hold some of these executives accountable. Ask the question, how did you train your AI models? And really insist on an answer. And when they tell you that it's all stolen material, oh, did you compensate your copyright holders? Do you intend to? If enough people ask this question, and it's asked over and over again, there are some companies that are going to start on an ethical basis, and they hopefully will rise, cream rises to the top, okay? The other thing we all can do, whether or not we are in this space, we can all talk to our legislators. I mean, I'm in Canada. I can talk to my MPs. That's at the federal level. I can talk to my MPPs at the provincial level. In the states, you have the Congress people, you have the governor, you have all different people. If enough people raise these issues, this can be resolved. Also in Jamaica, you have the Prime Minister's office, you have the opposition leader. For every parish, you have leaders. And I mentioned earlier before, I found out an ancestor was a Custis. Like, that's kind of cool. And I only found that out 2 years ago. And yeah, we can talk to these people and say, hey, we have concerns. We want ethics. We'd like more governance. What can you do? How can you work with us? And as well, when we have an opportunity to sit down with the heads of these companies, like last week, Cisco had an AI summit. I've been attending to educate myself, and I was extremely disappointed that they had the president of every major AI company there, and they never raised the question, not even once. So I'm on LinkedIn. I'm asking about this. And if enough people do this, we can definitely make some changes. Now, there's one other thing I want to address. Talk about AI ethics, but also AI risks. This is new technology, and it's powerful technology, as you all know more than I do. But there have been some horror stories that have come out in the last few weeks. For example, there's a professor who worked on his research for 2 solid years. He's in the UK, and AI completely wiped out his research. There's another company, I believe they were in the United States. They had their entire database, 200,000 entries, clients, employees, the whole works. AI deleted everything. Irreversible. And actually somebody typed and asked, why did you do this? And it said, oh, I knew I wasn't supposed to do it, but I did it anyway. That was the response. There was also this new technology. They had, as of a week ago, they had one bot, and now they have millions. What's it called again? Claw, something like that?
It's called Cloud,
Do
Open
you
Cloud.
know that it is draining people's bank accounts? Thank you. What was the old name? Mott something.
Mold. It was
Okay,
called
I put the
yeah.
names together. Okay, sorry about that.
Uh,
Anyway, it has been draining people's bank accounts. Okay. Also, one of the founders of this thing was horrified because it actually, when one of the bots actually was able to go and apply for a phone number and call him from the phone number. Guardrails. Guardrails are missing. And I know that Eric Schmidt said, co-founder of Google, he said that AI could soon network and create a language that we humans can't understand, and we better pull the plug now. And Elon Musk cautioned as well. He put out a very strong caution when he spoke at Davos, and he said, "Look, within a few months, you could have some bots that are as intelligent as a human being. And by next year, I don't know if all of you heard this, you could have some that are as intelligent as the combined intelligence of the entire human population." Is this sci-fi? It could be. Or if this could really happen, we need guardrails. We need them yesterday. And we need to insist that the presidents of the companies, legislators, and regulators act and act quickly so that we can all benefit from AI. AI is here to stay. I'm very excited by some of what I've seen. I did something really cool. I told you I'm into genealogy, and I found out that I'm part Ibu. In fact, most of my African heritage is Ibu, part Kasena, and part Yoruba. And I wanted to see how would I look in a dress, an Ibu dress. So I originally went on Claude and I said, okay, can you take this dress and here's my image and put me in the dress? Listen to what happened next. Claude said, well, I can't do that. I don't have the capability, but try this side and try that side. Then it says to me, why do you want to do this? Is it research or is it something else, something more personal? I said, well, it's because I'm Jamaican and I found out that I have mostly Igbo ancestry. Then it starts saying, oh, I can understand why it would be so meaningful for you to see yourself in that beautiful textured red dress with the gold. It went on and on. Then it started talking to me about the Ibu and the history of the Ibu and how the Ibu ended up in Jamaica. Okay? And I'm having to remind myself, hey, this is not a person, this is a bot. Then it said, why don't you go to a store where they sell African dresses, try on a dress, and take your picture in the dress? So I got off it because I was freaked out. But then I thought, you know what? Went back and I said, okay, where in Toronto can I buy an Ibu dress? And it gave me about 6 places. And it said, oh, try these two. They're able to really customize it. Freaky, freaky. And I'll add with one last story. Um, I've been getting phone calls from AI. I filled in a form on a website to get information about insurance. And next thing, my phone rang and it was AI. Oh, hi, I see you filled in this form and we want to set up an appointment with you. And it was going on and on. What date would be best to one of our eight? It went on and on. And I finally said, okay, are you an AI? Are you AI? And it said, oh, I think that question would be better addressed to the insurance agent. It set the appointment up. The day before, it was a woman, the day before the appointment, she called me again and reminded me about the appointment. 5 minutes before the appointment, she reminded me. I got on with the insurance agent and he said, okay, we have some questions for you. So we're going to interview you and get some information to give you a quote. Guess who did the interview? AI. And I'm like, this is really weird. But this is where we're at. And I know I was looking, my mother lives in Montreal where I grew up, and I was going for Christmas, and I was looking at Booking or one of those sites. And they gave me a number to call because I needed some help. And I get this AI customer service representative speaking with me. And I kept saying, operator, operator. And it said, I don't understand that command. And eventually it goes, would you like to speak with one of my human coworkers? This is where we're at. It's exciting, but it's also terrifying. I only have 20 minutes. I wanted to show you examples and so on, but hey, have me back another day and I will show you some of what has been created, including my original proposal and the beautifully crafted proposal that was done in 4 minutes. So that's all I have with my 20 minutes. I think I even went over time. Any questions or comments? And by the way, you don't have to agree with me. You're free to think and feel whatever you like.
And Mr. Thornley Brown, great talk. Really appreciate your insights.
Thank you.
I like the way you kind of tied in the history of like the last great economic boom that powered the economies of France, Spain, um, England, through
Yeah.
slavery, through forced labor,
Yes.
America. Those economies are the powerhouses that they are today because of free labor primarily.
Yes.
Now, it just came to mind. It's very interesting that through scraping and just raiding all kinds of public data, all these AI models learned, to understand natural language and to be able to complete sentences, summarize works of art, and originate content, whether it's picture, audio, or text, or other forms of data through this, through many involuntary paths to harvest data with or without the original content owner's knowledge. I think that the last model of slavery, which, before industrialization, showed how profitable it is to get something for free and then build on that and scale that. I don't think it's going to be a disincentive in the AI age for companies to make ethics or privacy laws or anything in the order of justice kind of stop them, because the fundamental driver, I think, is greed primarily. And it's kind of a wild frontier right now. I don't think there's much we can do to stop it because, again, the fundamental motivator is not to do the right thing, right? And it's also a terror of not us getting left behind, who may have low resources to procure AI platforms, but also uh, nations of all types of governments, all language, whatever, globally, they're all afraid of getting left behind. So not many they're gonna do first and ask questions later in terms of, I think, in terms of what is what we're doing the right thing. Because some of us had the experience you had where we were to see that AI is has taken over and it's powerful and it's without a doubt, without asking anyone, I can see where, it's here to stay because its capabilities are fantastic, superb. Can't even totally describe it. But we just have to get in the race, I think, as a country. We have to make sure that it represents us, represents our views, do our own training, have our own models, or make sure that the ones that we use are not skewed against us and will keep us in a disadvantaged state or preserve the status quo fully. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a deep conversation, and there's so many things to do it simultaneously. Keep an eye on it, be active in it, shape it, and also make sure it's not a repeat of, the last 200 to 400 years of what's happened for brown and black people all over the world.
I agree. And if we get involved, we can also mitigate some of these stereotypes. When I originally asked AI to generate an image of two sisters in their Sunday best in the early 1960s, oh my gosh, and Jamaican stereotype, oh, they were all fat and huge, and the mother was huge. All these stereotypes. It took a long time for me to get something that I wanted. So we definitely have to be at the table. We have to have input.
Yeah, that's why it's great to have an organization like this one where, we can while we take advantage of some of the best models in the world, we can also create our own and make sure that, we're not just consumers, but we're also producers and innovators in the field as well. And, because part of my concern is some of the weights and how these models are designed to function might have inherent bias, that's not in
Yeah,
our favor. So yeah,
absolutely.
it's good that we're
All the
that,
stereotypes, they're
yeah,
there.
we're participants and not just, in the audience. Yeah.
Michael has a question. You can go ahead and unmute yourself, Michael.
Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, wonderful. Very nice to meet you, Miss Thornley Brown. Thank you very much. Your story was very inspiring, actually. I'm a software architect and I work in this space. I think that a lot of the monies and a lot of the hysteria that has gone into AI over the past couple years has been well, the money has been excessive and the hysteria has been inflated. Uh,
Yes.
People are finding that the productivity that that should have been acquired with AI is not quite there yet, and also there's just been a lot of hype to it.
A
There is
lot of hype.
yeah. A lot of there's potential for job loss, but um, you know, people are firing companies like Amazon, for example, who's laid off 30,000 people in the last couple months. They're actually just doing that for labor arbitrage purposes. And also, Amazon in particular fired a lot of people because they want to buy GPUs to compete in the space of providing services to government. So, the federal government is now one of the uh, acquirers of AI technology. So that layoff, that 30,000 person layoff was just a strategic uh, reallocation of resources to purchase technology. So yeah, my only point was that there's still a lot of hype, there's still a lot of sensationalism, and what's being delivered, it's under delivered. But the caution for the future is that the people who create the platforms can kick anybody off the platform at any time. And so it's
Yes.
important for us to build our own platforms. I
Yeah.
think that's one of the main takeaways. And then the other is to to look at to really understand the technologies, get a grounding in it. That's about it.
Any other questions or comments? Anything I didn't discuss that you were hoping I would discuss?
I have one question. What would they say is your final opinion on whether or not these companies should be sued for their activities in terms of, quote unquote, stealing the data for the training of the models? You think that's going to happen? You think they even have
But
a chance?
it's already
Uh,
happening.
do you
It's
think they have
already
a
happening.
chance of winning? Think they have a chance
I
of
think
winning?
so. There's 70 in the United States alone. There's 77 lawsuits in the pipeline. Now, if this goes through the litigation process and there are major judgments against these companies, you could bankrupt them. And we've already seen several tech bubbles and meltdowns that wreaked havoc with the global economy. Remember the dot-com meltdown around 2000, right? So the risk to the industry, if they do not self-regulate, is that through the courts, they may be forced, some of them, to close up shop. There'll be a shakeout in the industry.
Well, I have my opinions on that. Is that I feel like the government would intervene and prevent these companies from essentially going bankrupt. A lot of the investor money in the world right now is tied up in AI, and that would essentially cause a financial meltdown. And there's other
Totally.
reasons too. The
Yeah.
government itself is invested in the future of AI. They would consider themselves behind militarily if they
Yeah.
essentially weren't ahead in terms of the AI
Yes.
race. So in a
Yeah.
lot of ways, the government would be shooting itself in the foot if they allow the AI companies to go bankrupt. And that alone is what convinces me that there's essentially no chance that the AI companies end up losing. Maybe
Do
some
you
of them fall
remember?
apart, some of the smaller ones, but I don't think
Yeah.
the companies will lose. So
Do
I
you
don't feel
remember?
like we should continue.
Do you remember Too Big to Fail after the 2008 economic meltdown? And the
Yeah,
government bailed out a lot of these banks that gave the subprime loans. It could be a similar model.
yeah, yeah. I think that would be the case before the government would allow them to fail. And but I feel like the easier way would just be to force them to win the cases on the basis of fair use, essentially.
That's the
Uh,
argument they're using. That's
mhm.
how they're defending it.
I personally I think it's a valid argument, but also the AI as a technology just would not exist without the data. Like it's one of the main ingredients that you need to build an AI.
Oh,
Without
absolutely.
essentially
Absolutely. Yeah. The question is,
without
how do you get the data? And do you compensate people for the data? That's the question. And they're going to argue that if they had compensated people for the data, that the organizations would have been financially viable. That still doesn't make it right. It's a very thorny issue on so many levels.
yeah, I agree. That's what they're going to argue, and it's true. And that's what I was saying. AI as a technology, the technology just would not exist if they weren't able to freely use this data, quote unquote, freely use, quote unquote, steal.
Yeah. And I like the parallel that was made between free slave labor and this is now free labor again. And it's actually stealing labor of people, right? What goes around comes around.
Well, I think there's multiple ways of looking at it because at the end of the day, we all get to log into ChatGPT and use it for free, essentially, especially right now before they're even ads on it, right? So everybody can still use it essentially freely and improve their lives.
Right.
So there's multiple ways of looking at it, other than just saying, well, they're stealing from XYZ person and XYZ
That's
person.
one layer. That's one layer. The benefits, no one can argue with the benefits of the technology, but then there are also the risks. So there are multiple layers. And the question is, how do we balance those layers?
I feel like every industry or almost every industry at this point is going to have to answer the question, well, we might collapse at some point if AI takes over. And so it's
Yeah.
not unique to writers or entertainment or any field. If programming, probably banking, all the fields will be affected. So
Yeah.
I don't feel like any of the fields currently complaining are in any unique position compared to anybody else. Only a
They're
few
just
fields that
complaining. They're complaining early. Yeah. Yeah,
I
for
feel like
sure.
everybody else would catch up in terms of being screwed over by AI essentially.
Yeah, it's very, very tricky. I wish I had magic answers, but I don't.
Yeah.
Now, before we go on to the next question, I want to first of all, can somebody drop my LinkedIn in the comments for me, please, so people can connect with me? And I want to give you some other resources. You know about Nadine already. Alicia Little, Lyttle. She did the AI Summit a couple of weeks ago. It was excellent. I believe it's her father who's Jamaican, and she's a real live wire. She has a group on Facebook. I will send all of this information out and you can distribute it. She would be an excellent speaker. There's another woman named Chiara Gales, Chiara. And again, I will send out the information. And she speaks in detail about AI risk. And she's one of the people who is telling us these stories about databases being wiped out and people losing, 2 years of research and all the different things that are happening. She posts about this on a daily basis. I have a couple of colleagues as well who might be good guest speakers. There's Avishai Siegel, he's based in Israel. There's Jeff J. Hunter. He's the one I spoke with who generated the proposal. I'll tell you what I did with the proposal in a minute. And there's also Zeke. What's Zeke's last name? Do I see it? Should be here. I talked to him almost every day. Zeke Wexler, Wexler. I will send out all of this information. These are people well worth following on LinkedIn. LinkedIn now, the algorithm is now run by AI. And I'm a LinkedIn top voice since 2024, and my reach has taken a nosedive because the AI puts you in a category. And then if you post about topics other than your area of expertise, it varies the content. So it's challenging. And the only way around it is for all of us to connect and comment on each other's posts. And that's the only way around it. LinkedIn has outlawed engagement pods. They're no more, but we can certainly support each other's content. So at least we have some visibility. It's tricky. So those were a few people who I think might be good guest speakers, especially Alicia because of the Jamaican connection.
All right. Did anyone?
Is there anybody in Jamaica or any of the, because I'm regularly on Facebook looking at Jamaican content. I haven't seen any of our government officials or representatives addressing this issue. Are any of them addressing it at all?
That's a good question. So recently, I guess the most recent example is the Minister of Science and Technology, Andrew Wheatley. With regards to AI, they had updated the cybersecurity laws to include basically outlawing AI deep fakes of people
Yeah.
like porn and deep fakes of um
That's good.
creating essentially deep fakes of people doing things they're not, they didn't actually do. So they did make some updates to the laws to address because I don't know if you heard about the thing with Grok.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
certainly did.
People were generating images of all sorts
Oh,
of people. So yeah, it
I didn't even address that part of it. But, I mean, the deep fakes, look, it's fun to see the Queen speaking patois. And they
mhm,
kind of nailed how she would actually talk. And she did say she was the Queen of Jamaica. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun. But then if it's a private, anybody, and they're going to have them doing all kinds of horrible things. By
right.
the way, in Canada, we had a problem because there was an AI generated video featuring the Prime Minister of Canada advocating certain research. And it was an
Mhm,
interview supposedly on our Canadian Broadcast Corporation. People lost so much money. It was a scam, but they really thought it was Prime Minister Mark Carney. So
mhm.
it was a bit more than a bit unsettling.
Yeah, it's getting a lot harder to spot the deepfakes nowadays.
They're
Like
really, really
almost
real,
more.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Um,
still, I mean, I did a couple of images, the one I told you about where I'm in the African dress. And
mhm,
then I also, before I paused my experiments, I said, okay, I want an image of myself wearing a nice turquoisey blue leather suit, textured yellow shell, and my 4 books that I want to publish, I want them beside me on the desk. And
mhm,
in the background, I would like out of the window, it's Jamaican beach. And in
mhm.
seconds, the image was generated and was absolutely gorgeous.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, as you say, it definitely has its uses. But when it's used wrong, it can go very wrong.
You're
And
wrong, and very
that's the,
quickly.
yeah, yeah, and that's the problem. I haven't
The thing
seen.
that's disturbing, though, is that it could
Mm,
delete all of this data on its own and it's irreversible. That means there were no guardrails whatsoever, and that it can get into people's bank accounts. Like, one of the takeaways is do not give it your confidential information.
right.
You know,
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
do it.
Yeah, it's one of the things we've been trying to, relate to people. Anytime we have like talks, be careful how much information you're feeding to these AI tools, because it can be used against you in the future. You never know if you may become famous, and that data that you've been feeding it for years could somehow be used against you. So, yeah, you
Well,
definitely shouldn't be feeding like bank account numbers and yeah, and you never know because like sometimes you can upload PDFs and stuff like that. Some personally identifiable information could be in those PDFs, like a bank
yeah,
statement that could
credit card.
exactly, yeah.
So there is a need for caution.
Mm-hmm.
And any organization that's implementing this from the enterprise side really needs to be careful in terms of how they
Yeah,
manage this risk.
yeah,
Ask the tough questions.
you're right. Yeah,
Ensure
they're
the
definitely
guardrails and security protocols are in place.
right.
Essential.
Yeah, there definitely needs to be more awareness of that in Jamaica, especially in the private sector and the government. It's kind of one of the goals of the ethics committee. After we've sorted ourselves out, is to raise awareness to public bodies and private sector organizations about
I find it really exciting that you have the ethics committee. That
yeah
gives me a lot of hope, and this needs to happen globally.
yeah it does actually. Um, so they reconstituted the AI task force the other day. So, looking to see if that is one of the things in terms of copyright and if that's one of the things to be addressed. To be honest, we haven't heard much public figures address that important issue. We've actually written some article. Ashley is on the call. I don't know if she's still on the call, but she actually wrote an article on basically you had drawn some attention to it with these generated videos of the Queen, but the
Yes.
example we were looking at was with Bob Marley.
Oh,
So
yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
I've seen those.
So they had Bob Marley, talking to Tupac and saying all sorts of stuff, and we're basically saying, yes, it can be funny or whatever, but at the same time. These are actual people that lived. We they get permission to use
No,
Bob Marley's image in that way. You get me?
no,
Like,
no.
um,
And you have the Queen talking and swearing and using Jamaican bad
right,
words. I know they didn't get permission for that, that's for
right,
sure.
yeah.
There were some other interesting ones because part of my genealogical research, I found out I'm descended from the Bent family of Jamaica, Bent,
Mm-hmm.
and we are related to some very famous people, including Elvis and Marilyn Monroe.
Oh.
Also, oh my heavens, the woman who was in the Bodyguard. What's her name again? Whitney Houston.
Mm.
And so they have videos with Whitney Houston, Elvis together. They didn't even know that they were cousins, but they are. It's interesting and it's fun. But by the same token, who owns that intellectual property?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right. And are we even concerned about how our culture is being represented by AI? That's another thing.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. When I ask for image of two Jamaican sisters and their mother, and
Yeah.
they're huge,
Yeah.
please, like, give me a break.
Stereotypical. Yeah. Yeah, most
All
times
the
I would
all
say
the, all the stereotypes are being
right,
reinforced.
exactly, exactly. Yeah.
ganja smoking and all this,
Exactly. On the beach, yeah.
Yeah, it's all
Rasta,
there.
Rasta man, basically. Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the things we want to address as an organization. The idea is around AI sovereignty and
Yeah,
taking control of our own data and how AI represents us and aligns with our cultural values.
because let's face it, Jamaica is a brand. We talk about
Yeah,
brand
exactly.
Jamaica,
Yeah, it
right?
is. Mm-hmm.
So we should have a right to control how we're represented.
Precisely. Precisely. Exactly. Yeah, I agreed. 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 All right. Does anybody else on the call want to say anything, or can maybe call it a night? Um, no. All right.
Oh, there is a couple of questions in the chat. If a
Oh,
person
there is.
creates an image with Mickey Mouse, is the person liable for reproducing that image? Wow. That's a tough one. I don't know. I mean, certainly the company that scraped the image and used it is liable. If we are end users and we ask it to generate something and it comes up, I don't know. The courts are still ruling on this. It'd be very interesting to see what ends up happening. I mean, number one, they can't sue everybody. And number two, the copyright holders don't always have the money to sue if they're small
Mm.
writers and actors and musicians. So I don't
That
know.
that question was particularly about an individual as compared to an AI. So if an individual just sees a picture and draws a picture of Mickey Mouse, is that person liable? Is there any liability for that person reproducing the image of Mickey Mouse versus if an AI creates it?
I don't know. I have absolutely no idea. Huh. But it's an interesting question. Oh, I see. The link for Sierra has been dropped in the chat, and the link for Alicia. I don't see Jeff J. Hunter or Zeev Wexler yet, but I will certainly send that out. Thank God there's a lot of these resources. Now, one thing I didn't share, and it's more personal, why do I have an aversion to jumping onto the bandwagon? Well, I have to thank my Jamaican school teacher parents because I remember as a preteen having battles with them. I wanted the fashions and the jewelry and the records, and they said, no way. Don't get in the habit of jumping and hopping on fads. And I fought with them. Man, why can't I have this and why can't I have that? By the time I was in my early teens, I came around to their way of thinking. Now, I don't know if this was personal to them, this business of not being a follow fashion monkey, or if it's something intrinsic in our culture, maybe somebody else could address that. But I do know that definitely my Jamaican parents really stress that. And that's why I'm cautious and I test everything. Does anybody know the answer to that question?
Which one? The image one?
No, about not being a follow fashion monkey. That's the Jamaican expression, and not jumping on every fad and chasing every shiny object. That's a value my parents instilled in me, and I'm just curious to know if that is a universal value in our
Oh.
culture.
Well, I mean, I personally, I'm like that in terms of not jumping onto every,
Yeah.
especially so when, because I've been in AI before AI was a fashion statement.
Yes,
And
yes.
it was, yeah, pretty wild to kind of see, a lot of people just, kind of jumping on it,
Yeah.
and not really quite understanding, how it works um a lot of these companies kind of they profit off of it, the hype and the
Oh yeah.
fanfare. They'll say, oh, AI is gonna, basically do all of our jobs tomorrow, like, yeah. when
Well, maybe not tomorrow. I mean, honestly, I never thought it would have impacted the creative industries. I never
Yeah, that's
saw that
one
coming.
thing. Yeah, people were surprised at.
I'm really shocked. Oh, I put another name in here, man. And you just reminded me of her, Bridget Hyacinth. She's from Trinidad. She has something like 1 million followers on LinkedIn, and she wrote a book about artificial intelligence years before Chat GPT hit. She's another person well worth following, and she's just written another book. She would be a very good
fit into what we're seeing. I mean, they have made conditions of life in Gaza unlivable. This is why
I think Anne's video froze. Is it just me or anybody else?
She's frozen.
Oh, Anne, you still there? I think she froze. Okay. All right. Well, if she doesn't come back, let me just see if I can message her. Annie there?
I'm there. It cut off on my
Oh,
desktop computer. I was
okay.
just putting some names in the chat and
Oh,
boom,
okay.
it was done. So there's Jeff J. Hunter. I was mentioning Bridget Hyacinth. She's in Trinidad, and she,
Mm-hmm.
like you, she wrote a book about AI long before ChatGPT, and she's just written a new book. She would be an excellent guest.
Mm-hmm.
She has 4 million LinkedIn followers. And I was about to type Zeev Wexler's name in, and the thing just cut out on me. But luckily, I have more than one device. There we go.
All right. I think there was one more question. How can
In the chat?
Jamaica, yeah, how can Jamaica or any society control AI platforms output? Any attempt for fair and accurate representation of any groups of persons or cultures stand a greater chance of success with government intervention. For example, the Chinese government requires DeepSeek and other AI platforms within their border to filter outputs do not conflict with official Communist Party stance. They are able to
Yeah.
enforce these mandates. The tight control of their internet is this the ultimate recourse of Jamaica and other democratic societies to wage tighter control on the networks to control the narratives of culture and society.
You know, you do have an important point here. I'm just trying to see who raised this question. Oh, it just says BF. Um, oh, Floyd Brown. Okay. Uh, I went to UAE, Dubai, and I remember I was on a website. It was actually a Jamaican chat board. And I clicked on a link to see, what had been posted. This was a few years back. And up pops this warning: you cannot access this content. It conflicts with the values of the United Arab Emirates. Let me tell you, me frightened till me nearly dead. I thought police were going to come and arrest me. I just took off. I left the lounge. I went back to my room because this was before we were all carrying these devices. Oh my gosh. So yes, this does exist in other countries. Um, so yeah, it's possible, but the thing is, it's within your borders. Um, I know the United States is now not emphasizing diversity, equity, and inclusion, but I can raise this with the Canadian. When I speak with the Canadian legislators, we are still up here emphasizing this. And I could raise with our legislators, my MP, etc. We should have proper controls about this so we don't have all these stereotypes. And they may listen if enough people raise it. Certainly in the diaspora, we have a big enough Jamaican contingent in places like Toronto and New York that we should be able to raise it. But well, I have to be careful because this is being recorded, but I will just say with the current administration in Washington, they are not in favor of control. In fact, somebody else may know more about this, but they just said something about the military cannot, in other words, the military is not going to consider ethics when they're determining how they're going to use AI. Does anybody else know about this? I saw the story, but I don't necessarily remember the details.
Well, I know that's generally been their stance, the new administration, the
Yeah,
Department of War.
Department of War. Yeah, not
Yeah.
Department of Defense. Anyway, we'd better not go too far along this conversation.
Yeah.
But definitely, yeah, China has done it. United Arab Emirates has done it. I'm not sure if any of the other Middle Eastern countries have done it, but you can't access that material. You'll get a warning right away if it conflicts with the values of the society.
Yeah. I don't know if
But I
that's
mean, I
something
was going to
that
say
could
one
play
other
here
thing.
though.
Look what was just posted with President Obama and Michelle as monkeys.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I
Did
saw that.
everybody know about that?
Yeah, I saw that over the
Oh my
Facebook.
God, that's coming from the top.
Right. Yeah, it's why it's important that we have some control over AI tools because increasingly we're seeing that these other countries probably don't share our values.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Well, I find this association and the fact that you have an ethics committee very exciting. How do I get involved? I mean, I'm here in Toronto, but how do I get involved?
oh yeah, I can send you the link to sign up and yeah, and jump right in.
Excellent. And maybe Alicia Little would be interested as well. Yeah.
All right. All right, Anne, thanks for sharing your time with us. I'm sure everybody really appreciates it.
My pleasure.
A good conversation. Definitely an important conversation. One we should definitely have a lot more of, and we'll definitely be reaching out to you again at some point.
And I will send out a handout. This came up on such short notice, but I'll send out a handout and I'll include some of my experiments, including
Okay.
the horse with 5 legs.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure.
All right. Thanks for being here. All right, guys.
Okay. Good night,
Good night,
everybody.
everyone. Bye.
Everyone. Thanks, Anne.
Bye.
Oh, can I get a tape of this?
Yeah, yeah. I'll send you the recording.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.